Hello, my name is Merrick Allen, and welcome to today's 13, 14, 15, and 16 of the 1660 Challenge. That's right, I'm not behind. I've been writing scripts this whole time. I just haven't had the ability to film videos because I've been traveling from Indianapolis all the way back to Michigan, and I had to unpack all my stuff from winter break still. That's how long I've been gone. I was in Indiana for a week doing a theater conference. But that's okay because I'm back now, and we can get back to our normal scheduled programming. And I'm holding a light with my hand. But that's correct, you heard correct. Days 13, 14, 15, and 16 of the 1660 Challenge. But what is the 1660 Challenge, you might be asking yourself? Well, I've got an answer for you. The 1660 Challenge is a thing that I petitioned for myself to do. I invented it because I'm a creative guy. And I decided that I wanted to write 60 scripts in 60 days. I wanted to write 60 short film scripts in 2 months, and then call it a deal, and I guess just crawl into my grave after that because there's nothing else for me to live for once this is done. I'm using this like a microphone that glows, but it's probably not a good idea for me to do that because lighting is important. But I decided I want to do short film scripts. But that doesn't mean that you can't do the 1660 Challenge if you're not into film as much as I am, and I'm very into film, so that's very likely, even if you are into film. You can do whatever you want. That's why it's not called the 60 Scripts in 60 Days Challenge anymore. It's called the 1660 Challenge. So if you want to try 60 new types of jumping jacks, I don't know what kinds, read 60 new books, buy 60 new fidget spinners, eat 60 different types of ramen, that's up to you. I'm not going to control you. It's your life. It's your wife. Do what you want, okay? I'm not here to hold you down, okay? So do that, all right? Now, with that out of the way, with my little introduction out of the way, okay, I gotta stop using it like that. Let's get into things. Let's get into it. So while I'm introducing this first film, I want to show you some B-roll of what my room looked like when I got back from Indianapolis and what it looks like now, so you can see why it delayed me for 2 more days in making these videos. I can't film it in that kind of filth. So without further ado, Day 13, what was it? It was an open prompt, which means I can write whatever I want, whether that be a grandiose Disney-scale tale, or a film about an ant. I mean, it could be whatever I want it to be because it's an open prompt. So I don't have to be bound by any constraints. I can write whatever I want. So I wrote about theater, which is the thing that I have been doing for the past week in Indianapolis. But that's okay because it's great. It's about a person who is in a theater program. She's in a 10-minute play, and they're taking a break during rehearsal one time, right? And so the director says, "Hey, could you go grab these props from the prop room?" And she goes, "Well, yeah, sure." And then she goes down there and she's looking. She can't find the props. But then she opens up a prop drawer and boom, a bunch of props fall out. And she sees a bullwhip and she's like, "I don't recognize that." And so she picks it up and walla bang kazam, she's on an adventure. It's shots of her in an old-timey setting, wrestling one of the props away from someone in a mafia, and it's crazy. It's crazy time. She doesn't remember doing these things because they never happened to her. And that is the whole crux of this film. Like, it's basically she's living these flashbacks trying to find these props, and it's a good time. It's full of comedy. It's not very drama-filled, and it would be very hard for me to film because, well, is using these. It has these huge, action set pieces of she's wrestling away stuff from. I need to fix my dog. She's got these huge action set pieces where she's wrestling stuff from pirates and mafia members and things of that nature. So it would be really hard for me to film. I have access to a theater space, but it's not like that's not at all the biggest stumbling block. And also I would need to get an expensive whip, and I only have cheap whips right now, so that's not going to help me out too much. It clocks in at I think exactly 5 minutes. I'm not going to check again because, well, I checked a few days ago when I wrote it, so there's no oh no. Oh no. Day 14, on the other hand, was not an open prop by any stretch of the imagination. It was a within means day, which means I have to write something that I could theoretically film right now if I, was to gather talent. And I mean that in a lot of ways, because I don't have it either. And also actors. But if I was to, have the time to allocate towards it, that I would be able to film it right now. And that is something that I try to strive to do pretty much all the time. If I wasn't doing this challenge, I would probably exclusively do those, but part of this challenge for me is trying to write outside of my means, believe it or not. So that day was actually not an open prompt, so I had to write within my means. And also, it is our very first time that we are collaborating on a script. That's right. I'm not just a solo canon. I realize that people are good at things. And so I decided that, throughout this, I'm going to try and collaborate on scripts as much as I can. Like, so I put a few days where it's not just, an open prompt or a closed prompt where I have to write in or out of my means, and it's not just a genre bender and stuff like that. I want to collaborate with people on stuff. So today I had to collaborate on a script, and it was a party for everyone involved. I contacted my friend from high school and fellow film boy, Kane, who I made a lot of my short films with, especially the ones, again, when I was in high school and we went there together. So I contacted him and we decided we would write a thing together. And truth be told, he informed me that he had a little streak of writer's block going. And so he thought, this is not going to be inspired. If I'm writing right now, it's not going to be good. My writing will be flat, it will be uninspired, and you're not going to like it. And so I said to him, okay, here's what we're going to do. We'll take turns writing, okay? So we'll take turns writing, and I wrote the beginning of the script out, and basically the idea that we had was Avenir Blanc 2, which I'm butchering the pronunciation, even though I made the first one with him. But we made this short film a few years back about loneliness headed into the future after graduating any place, or really just leaving any group of people, right? So we wanted to reflect on that kind of existential fear there, and we submitted it to contests, and it was a good time. So what we decided to do for our thing after brainstorming for a little bit was continue that idea, but now they're about to graduate college, so we didn't want it to feel too, hackneyed or repetitive. We didn't want it to just be the same thing over and over and over for 60 days. Just kidding. We didn't want it to be the same thing because that gets boring for people, and we don't want to focus on the same thing all the time. So we decided to make it the continuation like that and kind of do a role reversal where in the original one it was, oh god, that light bulb tasted really bad. In the original one, my character was comforting his character, and now in the second one, which is not named just Avenir Blanc 2, but in the second one, it's kind of a role reversal where my character has an emotional existential breakdown, and they need consolation from the other character, but he's not super well versed in it, so it's kind of like there's a little bit of comedy there, but it's mostly just drama about that relationship. So when we started with this idea, I thought, well, okay, I'll write the beginning of it, and I'll get Kane to write the a little bit more, and we'll take turns. We'll switch back and forth. Maybe not just middle, beginning, end, but we'll switch back and forth as much as possible. So like when one person is added a few lines, the other person might jump in whenever they're free. So I started it, and I was like, hey, I'll hit you up, and then he's like, okay, cool. So he wrote a few lines, and then I was like, okay, and so I wrote some more of it, and then he kind of he didn't write anything back, and I was fine with that, but I wanted to know why, and it turned out that was where the writer's block was. It was, that's what it had to do with it. It was because, he had writer's block, so he didn't want to continue the story and have it be uninspired. But I talked to him and I said, dude, all right, listen, I'm commissioning you. I'll write you some songs, and in trade, just write a little bit. Just write a little bit for me. If I can get a paragraph, a sentence, a word, a letter, I'm satisfied. I understand the writer's block. That happens to everyone, even someone who's trying to write 60 scripts in 60 days. We all get writer's block. So I didn't want to, press him to just make something uninspired. But when he actually started writing it, it turned out to be like literally the best dialogue that I've seen in a very long time. And it was really well written. And he went from, I gave him the beginning and then a scene to lead him into, right? And he got so in the zone, he got so in the flow of it, once he actually started doing the writing, he finished the script. And it was perfect. It's perfect. And I want to make it now. And he took it in directions that I didn't think that it was going to go. And it was better than my original ideas. So that's another reason that I am doing this 60 and 60 challenge, because it helps stave off writer's block. You know, if you're forcing yourself to do these things every day, you don't have a choice. It's not like, oh, am I going to go to work today? No, you don't. You go to work every day because that's what you do. That's part of your life. It's not like an option unless, you know, you're sick like me, but it's not an option. You don't make it an option. You try as hard as you can to make it something that you just have to do, whether you want to or not. And I think this goes back to something I'll talk about later, but Dan Harmon's theory of, like, just write it. Even if it's bad, that is what writing is for, and you can go back and edit your work, you know? So get that first terrible draft out of the way. Yeah, sure, okay. We'll agree. It's going to be bad. First draft's going to suck, but do it anyway, because after that, you'll be able to write something that's better, and you'll be able to go back and you'll be able to edit it, and it'll be great. So what am I saying? I don't know. I like rambling. Basically, he had writer's block, and that, I think, helped him a lot, and I don't think that it turned out uninspired. I think it turned out some of the best writing that we've had in our collaborative short films, and I would really want to do that as one of the ones that I do later on. So that one probably clocks in around 5 or 6 minutes as well, just like the original one. It's not super long, but it says everything it needs to. It's just pretty much two characters talking back and forth. So, day 15. What do we got? Yes. So, day 15 was, I believe, another open prompt. Let me see here. So, oh no, it wasn't. It wasn't an open prompt. It was about story structure. Story structure 2, actually. The very second time we are doing story structure. That is correct. Story structure 2. And it's great. I look like a skater dude with all these band-aids. But story structure 2, I wanted to focus on, instead of story clocks, something similar that Dan Harmon does a lot. Again, I said I was going to mention this earlier about Dan Harmon. He writes for TV. And TV story structure is... So TV story structure is drastically different than that of most film, where instead of having the character be resolved at the end, you have them learn the futility of what their original goal was. So at the end of a sitcom, everything just kind of goes back to normal, and maybe they've learned a lesson, but it doesn't, solidify into any huge plot point. That's how you can serialize stuff. So anything short of like your Breaking Bads or your, Game of Thrones, most TV is set up like that, like sitcoms especially. So watch TV and you'll notice that happen, right? Like at the end of a normal story, a narrative like that, generally it's assumed that the hero is going to come back and they're going to be changed in some dramatic way and their world will be slightly different because of that. But with TV, you want them to learn their lesson and then have that change kind of absolved or not really amount to a lot of things. So, Rick and Morty, Community obviously are good examples of that because, Dan Harmon is on both of the, he writes for both of those shows, and he literally created one of them from scratch and co-created the other one with Justin Roiland. But whatever, don't worry about it, it's fine. There's ants down here. So short story long, he tries to get this information. He succeeds in getting information that will hopefully promote him to being a police chief or something, or help, and he steals a bunch of money. But then it ends up the information just blows out of his hand and he loses all the money. So hopefully I didn't spoil that too much for you. It clocks in around 4 minutes, but also all of the other are around that time period too. So even though it is breaking the rules we set up at the beginning, I think it's okay because I'm writing as part of a series that already has that as an established amount of time. Our next story was another day where we just had a raw Within My Means. By the way, the last Within My Means project that we did here, the last short film, was the first time since day 2 where it was just, me writing Within My Means. I've had modifiers to it every single day, so it was actually kind of a treat to just have to write Within My Means. Anyway, so we decided, me and myself, that I wanted to do a film about time travel, which was an idea that, oh man, I'll tell you what, kid, time travel fry your brain like an egg, am I right? All my teeth are yellow. But I decided to do time travel because I hate myself, and Basically, it ended up being a story about a guy's doppelganger who was him from the future, who would use a split screen technique to make him two of him, and then he discovers time travel inadvertently, and the story is about him talking to himself and coming to that discovery, essentially. So it's a good time. It's fairly short. I think it's only about 5 minutes. However, this kind of story could very easily overstay its welcome, so I think that that's a positive thing. If you have a narrative like low-budget time travel, a lot of times, if you're not the person who wrote and directed and acted in Primer, it doesn't turn out super well, and it's corny and bad. And I didn't do time travel the last time I had a sci-fi thing, so I decided I would do it this time. But even though I don't have a genre bender, I just decided I wanted to do it. Okay! Day 7, oh, that's, day 17 is, we're doing that tomorrow. But yeah, day 16, there it is. Oh, that's hot this time. Oh no. Oh. Ow, why did I not? LEDs get so hot. People don't think they do. They don't put off as much heat as an incandescent bulb. I would have shattered my mouth had I done that, but man, what'd I do for you guys, huh? Anyway, that's it for today. Check in tomorrow when I've got more magic up my sleeve and hopefully, like 66 more scripts for you.